Your body is made up of many, many different organs, and they all have a system that they connect to. And all of those systems work together to make you alive, to make you living. So basically, the one that we're going to be talking about today is called the nervous system. The nervous system is made up of all the nerves in your body. All the nerves, every single nerve in your body is what comes from the nervous system, and the nervous system is in charge of that. So basically what the nervous system does is takes all the nerve cells and the fibers in your body, and it transmit the signals to let each nerve work together to get you to breathe, to get you to walk, to get you to think, to get you to do anything. So that's basically what they control. They even control the things that we don't even think about, like your heart beating, or your breathing, or blinking, or anything really. The nervous system controls all of it, because your whole entire body is just made up of nothing but nerves. So with each nerve, there is a cell body, like you see in the neuron next to me. The cell body has little things coming out of it, and that's how the signal gets from one neuron to the next. The thing that the signal comes through to the cell body is called a dendrite, and that's where the signal comes to the cell body. And the thing that the signal goes away from the cell body is called the axon. And as you see on the neuron next to me, they have no signals coming in. They only have signals going out. But we'll talk about that later. So basically, back to the nervous system. The nervous system is made up of two different parts. It's the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Now, the central nervous system is what houses the brain and the spinal cord. And the brain and the spinal cord are the most important things in your body. They are what controls your digestive system. They are what controls all of the systems, because your brain tells them to do without you thinking about it. So that's what the central nervous system does, and that's the main nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is basically everything else. So your arms, your legs, your feet, your hands, that's everything else. So basically, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system work together. They transmit signals back and forth to each other, which makes your body work. So, how does it work? How it works is whenever the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system work together, it works together in three main functions. The first function that we're going to be talking about is the sensory input. Now, the sensory input is what starts it all, and the sensory input is built with sensory nerves, and the sensory input is also part of the peripheral nervous system. So basically, let's give us a scenario. There's a spider crawling on your leg, and you don't know about it. So you feel the spider on your leg, and the first thing you do is kick it off within 1 second, within 2 seconds most. But in those milliseconds, you go through three main things. So the first one is actually feeling the spider, and that's what the sensory input is in control of. Because those nerves in your skin are feeling something that you don't recognize, that your body does not recognize. So it sends a signal up to your brain. And then when your brain starts to think about it, that is what's called integration. That's what your brain does. It puts two and two together. Oh, I'm outside. Oh, this isn't normal. Oh, this could be a spider. And the brain then sends the signal back down to wherever the spider is, and it causes you to kick your leg. And that is called the motor output. So those are the three main functions that happen within 2 seconds, really. And that's going to happen throughout your whole entire body, and that's just the things that we think about. The things inside of our body, those things we don't really think about, and that's a whole different topic. So what happens whenever one of those nerves within the sensory input and the motor output are damaged? They can get damaged from many different things, really. They can get damaged from trauma, they can get damaged from an infection, or they can even get damaged from a disease. Now keep in mind, if any of the nerves are damaged, even just one, even just a few hundred, really, that really won't make a difference, not unless it progresses. Whenever one nerve is damaged, the signal can always find its way around the damaged part. It finds a different route to go to get to the same thing. So whenever a sensory nerve or a motor nerve is damaged, what happens? My neuron is a sensory neuron, and it is damaged because of a disease, and the disease is Alzheimer's. This disease is where people, mostly elderly people, it can happen to young people like in their 30s maybe, mostly elderly though. Basically, they start to lose their memory. So it starts off like losing memory on how to do everyday things like cook or lock the door or turn off the stove, or like they go outside running, they forget where their house is. They can't remember these things, and that confuses them. So confusion and memory loss are very connected. Then it leads to bigger things like they can't remember who their friend is, or they can't even remember who their family member is. That causes them to get very irritated, and because people are coming at them telling them that they should remember this person, and they can't, because their brain is being infected with this disease. They don't know what causes this disease, and that's what makes it idiopathic. But they do have some ideas. So some ideas that they do have is they think it's a neurochemical factor. So there's deficiencies in the neurotransmitters, which is sugar. So they think that might have an effect on people who get Alzheimer's. It also may be viral factors, so their immune system, which fights off bacteria and infection, their immune system stops working. So then they get infected, and then that infection eventually makes its way into the brain, and that's what causes the frontal lobe to start desiccating, which causes memory loss and not being able to remember things, and not being able to do everyday things that you should be able to do as an adult person. Another thing that may cause it is trauma, and trauma can be from anything from just like getting in a car accident or a plane accident or anything like that, really. Any trauma to the brain can cause it. And then of course there's genetic factors, so your mother or your father has it. The person who has the gene, so your parent could have the gene, they have a 50% chance of getting it. But then the parent has a child, and that child then has a 98% chance of getting Alzheimer's. And that's a very high risk. That's only a 2% chance of not getting it. So even though that is the most rarest form of Alzheimer's, it's still very, very scary. Now, remember earlier how I said the signal from other neurons has to be able to come in and come out. So it comes in through the dendrites, it goes to the cell body, and then the cell body then transmits the signal out through the axon. Now, in this neuron right next to me, the dendrites are missing. And Alzheimer's is known for eating away like dendrites and being able not to transmit signals anymore, and that's what causes the memory loss and everything, and that eventually leads to the brain, and then it progresses from there. So in that neuron there is no dendrite, there's only axons, and there's only signals going out. So eventually the other neurons will get affected, and then the signal cannot be transmitted through the body, and then eventually all the neurons will die, and then eventually that person will pass away.